For years, SeaWorld has been trying to change its identity in an effort to get the stain of blackfish off of them. In doing so, they've lost their way a little bit and need to rediscover who they are. I do believe that's possible, but it will take a bit of effort on the part of the managers and executives at SeaWorld to do so. It's something that would be well worth it. Let's go all the way back to the establishment of SeaWorld, back in 1964. That year, the first SeaWorld opened its gates to the public in San Diego. George Millay, along with Milton Shedd, Ken Norris, and David DeMott, paid to have a marine park built and opened to the public. Milton Shedd was not only a businessman, he was a conservationist and philanthropist as well. Ken Norris was a businessman as well as a naturalist, marine mammal biologist, and conservationist. It was only George Millay who was just a businessman. Today, it would be almost unthinkable to hear that two conservationists would join a businessman in creating a marine park filled with entertainment. Zoos and aquariums are focused almost solely on education and information. That's not a bad thing, but that still begs the question. Why gear a marine park towards entertainment instead of education? The answer is very simple. Because education moves the mind, while entertainment moves the heart. George Millay himself said that they don't bother with a facade of education, and he was right. By right, I mean he understood a lot better than most zoos and aquariums today how people think and change. If you speak to people about why they became conservationists or biologists, it very often has something to do with how they grew up. They have an innately emotional attachment to the thing they are protecting and nurturing. These are the kinds of connections SeaWorld is about. The kind that makes people care on an emotional level about marine life, and not simply spit out factual information. This is why SeaWorld was for so many years filled with entertainment with education being a side dish. In the early years of SeaWorld, there were shows involving dolphins, mermaids, and more. But orcas would not be a part of the picture until the next year in 1965 when SeaWorld purchased Shamu, a female orca who lived and wowed guests for 6 years before passing away in 1971. An aquarium owner named Ted Griffin, who had put together a whale collection company to sell orcas to those who wanted them, gave his reason for doing that in the 1980s. He said, I, at the time, had always wanted to state that the killer whale was really friendly to man, and that there was no serious reason to continue their fear of the whale. There's been a lot of fear of the killer whale, so in order to get people to identify with the whale, I tried to make him human. I tried to make the people see the whale as a friendly companion. For centuries, orcas have lived near mankind, and to this day there has been only one confirmed case of a wild orca doing deliberate harm to a human being. This was why many orcas were sent to aquariums and marine parks, to let people see these mighty mammals up close and realize these aren't simple nuisance animals who sometimes steal fish from fishermen and are not animals to be feared. SeaWorld put on shows for the next 40 years where trainers would perform stunts with the orcas that showed just what these animals are capable of. And they don't just swim around looking for food and reproduce. The shows made people see with their own eyes that these creatures are intelligent enough to coordinate with other orcas and even others not of their own kind to accomplish a goal. Various shows would take place at SeaWorld over the years, from the theatrical to the educational to ones that were a little of both. A show featured by activists when they bash SeaWorld is usually Believe. That show took place from 2006 to 2011. I myself saw this show when I was a teenager, and it was thoroughly amazing. The show began with a man swimming to get away from an orca as ominous music played to depict how we were once afraid of these creatures. It would then go on to show this same man discovering the orca was not so dangerous as he thought, and the two came together as one. This man would then go on to share the joy of this discovery with a friend of his. This was depicted by the show Believe without using words to state it directly. This was a show that was purely theatrical and attempted to teach an attitude about animals and not simply spit out facts about them, which is what the current shows have done. Orca Encounter, Dolphin Adventures, and Flipper's Facts and Fun are the 3 shows currently ongoing at SeaWorld. They are quite different from the shows that SeaWorld used to put on. They are educational to the point of, dare I say it, info dumping. They list off a bunch of facts about each animal and use entertainment as a wrapping paper. If you make shows primarily about education, then you're jumping the gun a little bit. Most people in the audience are not going to get a job in conservation or biology. So, what are they supposed to do with the information given to them? Are they going to go home and tell their friends and family that dolphins can swim 22 miles per hour? Or that you can find sea lions on the Pacific coast? It's cute when a kid does that. But me, I can't do anything with those facts from the presentations. I'm just some random guy from the Midwest where SeaWorld hasn't had an operating park since 2000. So, what do you do with these shows? First, we need to understand what interpretation and entertainment do when done right. There's something that must be understood about connecting people to nature, or any other topic of importance. If you read Interpreting Our Heritage by Freeman Tilden, the book whose principles of interpretation are used by the National Park Service, you'll find that one of the principles says this: information as such is not interpretation. Interpretation is revelation based upon information, but they are entirely different things. However, all interpretation includes information. This is exactly right. If all you do is state facts and information, then you are not interpreting, and you are doing no service to the subject you are talking about. The reason people go to zoos, aquariums, marine life parks, theme parks, national parks, or any other kind of park is because they are looking primarily for a way to amuse themselves, and secondarily to find guidance as to their role as a human being. Parks are where they're most likely to find that desire satisfied when they're not in church. This is what SeaWorld used to do. The shows would sometimes entertain or depict in an artistic way our relationship with animals as it ought to be. That's what Believe in Blue Horizons were. On the other hand, you can also have shows that educate and entertain at the same time. That mix is what you call edutainment. The show Shamu Adventure from 1998 to 2006 was exactly this. It's the shows Believe in One Ocean that get the most criticism from people who despise SeaWorld, because those two shows were about emotional connections through entertainment instead of factual information, and most easily fit into the caricature they have about marine parks. These shows ventured to amaze and not just amuse. Why? Of those who are entertained, some of them can get curious. Of those who get curious, some may get fascinated. Of those who get fascinated, some will seek an education. Of those who seek an education, some will get a job. Even if someone doesn't ultimately take part in conservation projects, the hope is that they will be more supportive of others who do. That's the power of entertainment. To pass on a culture and set of ideas from one generation to the next and develop it over time, and not just amuse people. Since the accidental death of Don Brancheau in 2010, a propaganda piece called Blackfish in 2013, SeaWorld has been at a crossroads. They have shifted their focus to thrills and rides over animal entertainment since then, and have not stopped. Anheuser-Busch sold the parks in 2009, and the parks have experienced dramatic changes since then. Anyone who claims they have not changed are denying what's in front of all our eyes. Orca Encounter premiered in 2017 and has been the primary orca show that takes place at the SeaWorld park since then. Orca Encounter has been one of the slowest and least entrancing shows SeaWorld has ever had. The version in San Diego until this year was easily the most boring. When I first watched the video of the San Diego show, it sounded as if the trainer was just reading off a script without interest, listing off facts like bullet points while the screen showed facts and figures. That was until May 2025. In the middle of that month, SeaWorld San Diego debuted a refreshed version of Orca Encounter. Boy, what a refresh it was! The new version got rid of the charts and figures and replaced the usual Orca Encounter soundtrack with music from Believe and One Ocean. Trainer Blake was the speaker and he made smooth transitions from one part of the show to the next. There was a much more lively flow as the activities of the orcas and the music both were made to match what Blake was talking about. Blake even had a couple members of the audience volunteer to get soaked. The finale, which is the most important part of the show, lasts 2.5 minutes where triumphant music is played. The final words of the song are, "Open your heart, shine like the sun now. Reach out your hand, worlds become one now. Think what a world this world would be when you believe. We as humans can in fact influence this world for the better. It's one of our roles to be stewards of creation. That's what I believe. Do you believe?" SeaWorld has indeed lost its way a little bit and needs to rediscover who they are. It would be a good thing if they did. We've forgotten the true value of entertainment, to pass on attitudes, values, and culture from one generation to the next. I've said it before and I will say it again. It's okay to use animals for entertainment. The question is, what are the animals doing to entertain? Because people find animals doing things to be entertaining, period. We shouldn't doubt the resolve of the SeaWorld trainers to provide the best care they can on a daily basis with the resources they are given. However much longer they have the orcas, and this is the last generation of orcas at SeaWorld, they should continue to have them wow the crowds with their strength, speed, and agility. In the meantime, SeaWorld is changing before our very eyes, and they are trying to change for the better. Let us give positive feedback where it is due, and constructive criticism where it is needed. Making changes in good faith are much better than having an activist shout in anger, hatred, and resentment, and a desire for destruction. The money from your visit to SeaWorld helps keep the SeaWorld rescue team funded as they rescue more and more animals each year without credit from the press. We are made to be stewards of creation and are not mere bystanders. SeaWorld is the organization best positioned to forward that alongside the zoos and aquariums across our nation. Let's help them do just that. Thank you for listening. I hope this video provoked some thought for you, and hope to see you again sometime. Goodbye.